Hi, colleagues, and welcome along to the next episode of Dincast, where I'm delighted to be spending some time in the company of the very wonderful Raylene Rourke, a young South African innovator and entrepreneur, currently now residing in Hong Kong. And she's done so many things in a short business career so far, and I'm really, really excited to sort of explore her journey and what she views around innovation, and particularly working in with young people and how that fits with social impact and what she's trying to do. So, Raylene, for our viewers, would you like to sort of just introduce yourself and just tell us a little bit about yourself?
Yeah, sure. Thanks, Ian. Hello, everybody. So I'm a young South African living in Hong Kong. I'm a mother of three little girls, 4, 2, and 5 months. But I absolutely love entrepreneurship. I started my entrepreneurship journey with my best friend Nelly Swa. We started a business when we were about 24 years old, and that had to do with innovation and youth-led innovation, to be specific. We then went on to sell that business to Deloitte and had fun growing it within the Deloitte space. And I've now moved on to start a new business inspired by my young girls. It's called Indica. We'll probably get into it a little bit later. And yeah, my studies background has been industrial psychology, industrial and organizational psychology. I've had lots of fun being part of the World Economic Forum, the Global Shapers community, and just enjoy getting involved in starting new businesses, new ideas, taking them to the world. I've got a huge passion for sales. I love serving and delivering value to those who have money to pay for it. I guess I'll leave it there, Ian.
No, that's fantastic. That's fantastic introduction, really. I mean, perhaps sort of we can sort of start back at the early point in your career. I can't imagine it would have been easy for you, sort of coming up and growing up in South Africa, to actually be an entrepreneur and that. So, I mean, what were the challenges that you particularly faced in terms of being a success within South Africa?
Yeah, I think it's the way we started. Just to move back a little bit further, I grew up in a family business. I grew up in quite a rural part of South Africa, the Eastern Cape. It's near Qunu, where Nelson Mandela was born. So out of the 9 provinces, it's probably one of the poorest, maybe the second poorest, really a space where you don't really think you're going to be a big entrepreneur that sells your business to Deloitte. But I did grow up in an entrepreneurial space. My dad had a business for 35 years in the panel beating and breakdown industry. I was always in his workspace. I always saw how he was with teams. So I think I kind of was exposed to the family business very early. So it was quite natural to want to do something. But I think the success really came because the success came in Spring Age because it wasn't starting off to say, oh, we're entrepreneurs and we're going to build a business. In fact, my friend and I were in high school together. We probably didn't see each other for 4 or 5 years and got back together a couple of years later and said, well, in South Africa, there's a need for young people's voices to be heard. We've just got the National Development Plan that has been rolled out in the country with our Vision 2030. There are 9 specific pillars on how we're going to move South Africa forward, but we don't see how young people are part of coming up with some of those solutions. So it came from a place of what can we create to make sure we're moving our country forward using our friends and our young community. So coming from that space, from that intent, it was really relevant. We were able to come up and create a very unique value offering for business and government, where we were able to say, well, we can get you brightest young minds to come up with the most innovative, relevant, bold solutions for the problems that you have. And from there, we created like a process that we were able to productize, that we were able to run over and over and get better with. But we started off thinking we were a nonprofit organization because the intention was only to come up with solutions for South Africa. The time it clicked that, hey, we were entrepreneurs is we were working with a law firm that was doing pro bono work for us because we were a nonprofit, and they looked at all this work we were doing, and they were like, we can't help you anymore. Like, you can charge for what you're doing. You can charge these corporates for what you're doing. Get out of here. And I'll never forget, it was a Friday afternoon. They kicked us out of their office, and they said, you guys entrepreneurs, go build a business. We're not doing this for free anymore. And we're like, really? And then we started investigating, how could we charge for this and not lose the essence of why we started. And so the business of Spring Age, this business of youth-led innovation, was born, and we ran that for about 6 or 7 years. And I think so it's a success, to answer the question, was just this organic relevance and creating something that the country and our customers needed.
And just sticking with Spring Age, because I think the whole youth-led innovation piece is absolutely fascinating. It's going to become probably even more relevant sort of post-COVID, how we engage with the younger generations then. So you moved from that space of, being helped by different businesses to stand on your own sort of 2 feet. What did that feel like when you sort of walked out the door and thought, well, actually, I've got to, I'm part of a big business here?
It was extremely liberating. We were so proud of ourselves, actually, because more proud than scared. I think that's also the other thing. When you build a business with a partner, you kind of can share that fear. It wasn't like, oh my God, what are we going to do? We're like, okay, what are we going to do? And look at each other. So we were really proud of ourselves. And we're like, actually, yeah, maybe we can make a bit of money off this and build something that is tangible. And we thought that could be even a greater example to our young people. Imagine we could build something that created proper profitable value. So it helped us get our thinking caps on and go, okay, what's our plan? And it was absolutely at the right time, because we were both in this flexible space of work. And so we were working with companies that were quite flexible. In fact, my friend Nelis at the time was working for a Dutch-based company, Kessels and Smith at the time. And we knew that they would be open to us. So we started taking 1 day off a week, which we call Spring Age Day. At first, we weren't so upfront with our companies we worked for. We kind of were always sick on a Tuesday. But we would take Tuesday off and be like, this is Spring Age Day. And to this day, we still call Tuesday a Spring Age Day. And that would be the day we would only work on Spring Age. So we did it very gradually. We didn't leave our jobs. We just said, on Tuesdays, we're dedicating to building this thing. So we were actually proud and just ready, and it gave us the momentum to say, okay, let's put a plan together to make it happen.
And so Spring Age was very much about involving sort of the youth of South Africa and providing life chances, and again, just raising the bar for them. What do you think is the key to sort of engaging with young people? What did you do that helped you be so successful in that space?
Yeah, our main key ingredient in that space was letting each young person who came into it be who they completely were. So we had, I would say, like, our special ingredient, and Nelly Swim, my business partner, was in charge of this, was recruiting the right young people for every problem. So if a security company came to us and said, we want to innovate around bringing down the cost of cameras or the cost of secure or armed response, whatever, we thought about what solution, which young people do we need in the space, which young people with what kind of space of influence. And then we would recruit 12 young people for a specific thing. So we'd go to someone and go, we are bringing you on board because we have seen that you are passionate about keeping communities safe. We would love you to think with us on the network and how to engage rural communities on security. So we gave everybody their own space of influence based on their natural strengths. And when we did that 12 times for each 12 member, when we came into that spring break process, you could see each person really being proud of their space of influence, really being proud of their expertise that they were brought in for, and then we got the best out of them. And it wasn't Nelly and I going, oh, this is what we think you guys should do. We just provided this platform and magic happened. And we used to tell our clients that as well. And they were like, what do you mean? We used to be like, just give us your question. We will go find the right people. When in the room, step back. And we used to say, sometimes we don't want you in that process at all because you know too much. We're going to bring in people who know something that is important to your solution, but not everything. So we got really good at finding that individual strength in each person and elevating it in a space where they could share it. And almost 100% of the time, they were proud to share it and put their best foot forward. And I think that's how young people are. Just give them the platform to do what they love.
And you've mentioned a few times about problems. So clearly, problems motivate you and excite you to sort of to solve them. Just describe how you are going about solving problems.
Yeah, I think solving problems is all about solving needs and serving. So in the Spring Edge context, we kept that like non-profit feel of going, we're not going to take on every problem. In fact, the magnitude and the importance of the problems we take on actually create a better invitation for the young people to want to get involved. So we never took problems where it was only for profit. We wouldn't go to a client and go, we'll make you more money selling beer, for example. SAB was one of our biggest clients, SAB Miller, but we wouldn't go to them and say, we'll help you sell beer. What we did go, when they came to us and said, can you engage? We'd like some thinking of young people. We said, well, we know that you've got this amount of money that you have to spend on corporate responsibility on how to reduce alcohol abuse in the country. We will come up with the most awesome ideas on how to use that money. So we rounded off our problems in a way that as long as it was moving our country forward, it was a big enough goal and big enough dream to attract, because that's what actually attracted the brightest young minds. If the problem was big enough, it was moving the continent forward. And then we also, of course, balanced it with, is it serving the organization that was actually paying us? At the end of the day, you want to be making sure they are getting the right kind of return. But we also, the young people were also a very important constituency, and they needed to be getting the right return, which was solving problems and moving the country forward, because that's what motivated them. So for me, and even if I relate it back to sales, solving problems is finding out like what do people need, and what gaps are they having, and how can I serve them? How can I serve them is probably the best way to solve a problem.
And if you were looking back now and sort of reflecting, is there anything that you would have done differently with regard to yourself and Nelly sort of growing Spring Edge? Is there anything you think, oh, if only I'd done this?
One of the things I think about, I'm not sure if I'm not sure if I regret us not doing it, but I always wonder what if we did do it, was we didn't grow as a big company, and we liked it that way. So we in 7 or 6 years, we created a very safe company for ourselves. So Nelly Sue and I were the focal piece of it. We had our roles in the company very, very clear, and we would only become a big team as with projects. So we'd have this question, this spring break, we'd recruit to 12. If we had 5 spring breaks going, we'd have 60 people working at the same time. But it was based on per project. It was very clean. Once a project was done, it was gone. And I think we did play with the idea of how do we create a bigger consultancy around this. And we tried, but it got difficult, because suddenly we had to deal with people like for long periods of time. And we had just such a good chemistry. We knew how we worked, and we're like, you know what, this thing is working. So we didn't grow hugely. And then it was the point where we said, okay, maybe we do need to grow. Who can we collaborate with, rather than how do we build this company and hire people and all of that. And that's when the conversations with Deloitte started. But yeah, it's one of the things I often wondered, what if we did like just create our own Deloitte? Because it's still such a unique value offering, this whole millennial understanding and millennial insights. And we went on, when we've joined Deloitte, to build other millennial products. We could have built probably a monster of a company. And so I wonder about that, but I don't know if I regret much. It was safe and fun.
That's good, and work should be fun, really. But just sort of asking about the sort of relationship with Deloitte, because some people would look at that and say, how do you square off this big global consultancy who is about sort of raising fees with your profit with a purpose piece? Then how did you manage that balance?
So we went, because we had been operating for 7 years on our own, we had our principles. We did a lot of work around principles. Both Nelly and I are from the sort of psychology background, human development background. So we're very in tuned with working in our flow. So by the time we were speaking to Deloitte, we were very clear about what makes this company work. And so we went in very, very bullish around this is how it operates, and it might be different to what you guys do. And so when we started putting our foot down in that way, kudos to Deloitte, because the CEO, the deputy CEO, they said, well, we're going to leave you alone, right? You know what you're doing. It feels like you guys have a very clear idea around how you want to build this, with what values. And they left us, literally, they left us alone for 2 years. I was there for about 18 months to 2 years before moving to Hong Kong. But they absolutely left us alone in our own little department and said, well, let's see what you can create within this ecosystem, but without us, like imposing our own values on you. And at the end of the day, the values weren't too different, but we had a say to be like, we don't think we want to work with this company, and we'd rather do it this way. And I think we were very lucky to partner up with an organization that was as flexible. At our launch in Deloitte, I'll never forget, the CEO of Deloitte Africa at the time, he opened the launch for us, and he said, and he turned to us, we had a big audience, and he turned to us and he said, Raylene and Nelly, I never ever want to see you in the hall at the water cooler looking like us. Every Deloitte person looks the same with the blue check shirt. The consultants look the same. And he said, I'll be very disappointed the day I see you down the hall and you look like us, because we are bringing you in because you're different and you're injecting something different in the company. And so we kept them to that word. When they taught us and stuff, we're like, no, this is what Spring-Age is born out of, and this is what he's going to grow with. So it was being strong in that space. It wasn't easy, but we managed to keep our identity.
Fantastic. And obviously you've sort of moved on now, and sort of let's talk about what you're up to now, because you've just sort of launched Indica.
Yes.
Would you like sort of explain a little bit about what it is and why you've chosen to do this?
Okay, so I had so much fun in Spring-Age. When we moved from South Africa. My husband and I moved from South Africa, and we moved to Indonesia, and it was like a really great time. I thought, I always knew I'd start a new business. I knew I'm an entrepreneur by heart. That's what I want to do actually for the rest of my life. So I knew I would start a new business. I wasn't sure what kind of business. I became a mother of 2 girls at the time before we had our third one. And I said, well, I want to do a product. I want to do something product-based, because Spring-Age, as you can imagine, was a lot of consulting, a lot of ideation, a lot of that kind of stuff. I just wanted to get into a product space where if somebody didn't like it, they could say, I don't like it, and I could ask them why, and I could change it, and then I put it back into the market. So I just wasn't sure what product. And then I came across a statistic that spoke about girls' confidence, and the fact that girls between the ages of 8 and 14 years old lose up to 30% of their self-confidence. And so some of the ramifications of that is girls are not as outspoken during that age group. They rather don't say what's truly on their mind. You see them quitting sports and activities far more than their male counterparts. You see them overthinking, competing with each other. They start breaking down in some ways. And I was like, well, I'm a mom of 3 girls. What can I do to combat that? Because confidence is where it all starts. The self-belief that I can do it propels you to do anything, right? No matter if you can't do it, you're going to try it and you're going to learn something amazing. So I really wanted to impact what felt like an intangible space, but I wanted to impact it in a way that was tangible. So inspired by that need in the world to increase confidence and wanting to do a product and looking at the girls, my girls wear leggings every single day of their lives. I say, well, there's a big market here. And although it's probably quite saturated, if I can zone into a piece that is meaningful for mothers, and that is a gap in the market, I started researching what that gap was. And a lot of the girls were saying, we love the prints on leggings, but usually the prints that we love are in your very fast casual, fast clothing, like sort of bad quality. And the moms are like, I buy these leggings and they tear, but my girl really loves the prints on them. The ones that they don't love as much are the higher premium brands, because they are just more black and or blue, like really boring. So I thought, what if we could bring in quality and bring in these really fun prints and bring in this conversation that is important to me in a pair of leggings. And I guess that's what Indika is, a pair of leggings that teaches confidence, bravery, and sisterly love through their prints.
And your other angle is around, in terms of the products that you actually sort of use to make these leggings as well. Tell us a bit about that.
Yeah, so you're 100% right. So the prints are important, but actually the fabric became quite an interesting journey for me. Being in Asia, so after we were in Indonesia, we moved to Hong Kong and somehow got into understanding a little bit more about bamboo. And of course, I think it's something like 74% of the world's bamboo is grown in China. And I started investigating natural fibers, more sustainable fibers to make these leggings. And of course, bamboo is being used already quite mainstream in linen and things like that. So I couldn't find the bamboo. So I thought, okay, definitely bamboo, because I like the feel of it. But now I want to make leggings with bamboo. And literally for 18 months, I couldn't find the bamboo fabric that was stretchy enough to make leggings. They were all soft for t-shirts and nightwear and linen. And so then after 18 months, or I don't even know how long, I decided, well, we're going to create our own composition. So we then started going on the journey of finding bamboo. What else could we mix the bamboo with to still give it high quality and make it sustainable, to create this beautiful fabric that we have created. And so the fabric, being bamboo, makes it more sustainable in that bamboo grows really much faster than any other plant. It doesn't need pesticides. It uses really little water. And of course, it's stronger. It's softer than cotton. And then when we got to a point of investigating what else we could do with it, we realized charcoal was quite an innovative way to create minerals in the fabric. So because we now burn the bamboo at high temperatures, it becomes this charcoal which is mineralized, and it's got minerals such as potassium and magnesium, and it's got some calcium in it. So I wouldn't go as far as saying it's healthy to wear it, but that's because I haven't done the testing around it, but that's certainly the narrative right now around charcoal bamboo, is that the minerals inside are actually quite good for your skin. So that's been an interesting journey, just the fabrics on its own.
And in terms of where you actually are now, I mean, you've just launched, I believe, sort of last week, your sort of Kickstarter campaign around that. So tell us how that journey's been going.
Yeah, so once we got the product to a certain point, because that took quite a while, just getting the fabric, and then it was getting the right fit, because you're doing the fit for growing young girls whose bodies are all over the place. So we spent a lot of time on fit. Then we spent a lot of time on prints, by the way. So we've got a print artist in the States, and we've got somebody as well. I worked with some people on Fiverr in Pakistan, and it didn't quite work out. And then eventually I found a really great artist in South Africa. So once we had done the prints and the fabric, we knew that we had a product that we could take to market. And I figured, I can't even remember where I heard about Kickstarter, but I guess it's been there for a while. I thought a Kickstarter campaign would be quite a concentrated way to take my product to market. So to quickly get feedback on my product while raising money, right? So get some pre-orders going, use the platform to get some pre-orders. So when you pledge, the pledge tiers are actually you pre-ordering your leggings. But more than raising the funding, it was more about who would opt in and buy these. Let them buy them, let me get the product out to them, and I can use the same community to give me feedback about my product before I open the online store. So the whole journey of the Kickstarter has been amazing. So I'd been learning about it, and I spent a lot of time like figuring out what's a great Kickstarter video and all of that. And then we launched this video, and then, like you said, we launched the video last week, which also was in like hard timing, like COVID. I was thinking, double checking, do I launch it in COVID, which is another entrepreneurial conversation, launching a business during a crisis. I then reflected and said, well, I'm going ahead with it because I've been busy with this business for 2 years. And if I don't go now, maybe when am I going to go? When is COVID really going to be truly over? So I decided to launch the Kickstarter. And that has been a learning journey on its own. As you can imagine, the crowdfunding community and world is a world of its own. And I'm only now realizing how much of a complicated world it is, but I'm learning a whole lot. And I think it's still worth going.
And so finally, in terms of you as a leader, I'll call you a global leader in terms of, you've been all over the place and you're clearly very driven, but you will have come under sort of times of stress and pressure and things have not gone the way that you wanted. So how do you look after yourself and your personal well-being? How do you manage that so that you can always be performing at the optimum level?
Yeah. I think it's definitely a mindset. First of all, knowing that things are always going to go wrong. They really, really will go wrong, and expecting them to go wrong. You hope that they don't, but you expect them. So you're not overwhelmed when they do. That's the first thing. The second thing for me, I do see entrepreneurship as a marathon. I see it, and I know I will start another business after Indika. So Indika not being it's not my everything. I'm putting everything into it, but I know that I'm going to learn lessons here that I'll put into something else later. And keeping this long-term view of the journey rather than the end result is absolutely what keeps me sane. So and then you can bring it down to every single day. Every single day is a journey. I can tie up this day and go, this is what I learned in this day. This is what I'm learning before feeding time in the afternoon. So I bring it down, really down to the hour almost. Like, how is this day going? I'm always checking in on myself because I know I need to reflect so I can use the reflection for the next day and the next journey. So this long term, it's a marathon. You're not trying to impress anybody. It's going to take longer than you think. So taking the ego out of starting a business, I think, makes it more fun, because it's like you can laugh at the mistakes. I also think I'm a safe entrepreneur in some ways. I don't prescribe to the throw everything, all the money into it and hope it happens. I really don't, because I think that brings about stress. So even with Spring Age, or even with this one, it was about raising a little bit of savings before I started, understanding what my affordable loss is. Like, when would I call it quits? Like, if I lost, how much? How much is bad? And once you put those metrics in place, the chances are you never reach them. But you know that you've got a way out and you've thought about it. So it makes every day less stressful. I don't like stress. I don't deal with stress very well. So it is about planning, doing it slowly, thinking it through, backtracking, just giving yourself options and not being so fixated about perfection.
And that's a great way to sort of conclude our chat, Raylene. I mean, that's probably one of the most inspirational interviews I've done, and we've both smiled all the way through that, which takes some doing. So, thank you so much for your time, sharing your journey. I wish you all the very best with Indika, and look forward to sort of maybe catching up and doing some more chats with you, whatever your next venture comes.